Mary Gutzi is with me today on Secrets to Broadway and Luncheon with the Stars. Hey, Mary. How are you?
Hi, Joel. It's so good to see you.
It's great to see you. Now, here's the secret that a lot of people didn't know, is that Mary and I were in the original production of Les Miserables, and we were at...
The Broadway.
Oh, you were at the Broadway?
And we were there together, and we did that crazy transition to the Imperial.
Oh, my God.
When
right.
the mics were picking up the taxi cab calls
Yes.
and the very, very quiet moments of the show. It was delightful.
It was unbelievable. I remember that vividly, as a matter of fact. And I also remember we had at the Broadway Theater a gigantic runaway cart.
Right.
And then we had at the Imperial, which wasn't as big as the Broadway stage, we had a runaway hot dog stand.
It's true. It was such a great family, wasn't it?
Oh.
What a great group we had. And I mean, the fact that we're all still in touch with each other after all these years.
Well, thanks to Facebook.
Thanks to Facebook.
The internet and everything else, as I was telling you, I found my niche. I think that, Broadway is just the best. It's exciting being in a Broadway show. It's exciting being in the area and the electricity that you find as you're walking down the street going to a Broadway show. And we just saw Something Rotten last night.
Oh, it's so funny.
And then Brad invited us backstage, Brad Oscar, who plays Nostradamus and who's been on Luncheon with the Stars. And he brought us backstage and welcomed us with a nice big drink of vodka and tonic.
How nice.
There's nothing like Broadway, baby. So, Mary, you are now on both coasts and in Hawaii.
I am.
And how do you manage that financially? That's wonderful.
Well, we're actors. We're very resilient in terms of finances, and traveling is something that I really, really love.
Yeah.
I get a little stir crazy when I'm in one place for too long. So being able to be in Los Angeles for a while, New York for a while, and then take breaks and be in Hawaii for a while, it's not so bad.
No, that sounds fantastic. I mean, that's the way to go.
And you know what's really interesting, Joel? In Hawaii, there's a level of talent that is really extraordinary. The skill set is not so much because they don't really have a lot of people to train with, but there's this amazing talent, a talented group of people there that they really inspire me, and that's one of the reasons I go back as often as I do, so that I can coach performers there, and a lot of them have left Hawaii and have careers on Broadway even now.
There you go.
Yeah. So
we have our company that Kathleen and I opened back in 1990, ATC Studios, has now launched careers of thousands of young actors, which
that
we're
wonderful?
very, very proud of. Nina Arianda came to us when she was 5-6 years old.
She's extraordinary.
She couldn't speak a lick of English.
What?
And, she was Ukrainian, and when she finally started speaking English a little bit, and then she understood the rules and the play involved in the play, she got it, and there was no stopping this child.
I think she's very skilled.
Yeah. She was just amazing. But Mary, have you, we talk about ghosts a lot. We're raising the branding of Broadway, and we're talking about the artists on Broadway, and also if you have any ghost stories that you might be able to impart to our audience.
I don't have any Broadway ghost stories, but I do have ghost stories from on the road.
Okay.
Because of the national tour routes that we play some amazing old theaters. I believe it was the Fox in St. Louis.
Okay.
I saw a ghost there. I was coming back into my dressing room, and my dresser said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Did you see them?" I said, "See what?" Apparently, she said there was this whole group of ghosts that had just gone into my dressing room. So I went into my dressing room to go through all my makeup, I imagine. And I did feel a very different feeling in the energy of the room. It was all of a sudden very chaotic and almost disruptive. And so I kind of don't think I'm crazy. I said to them, all right, you guys, everyone calm down. I'm working. I need to focus. And they did. But she did tell me a story that one of the crew guys had taken a photograph of one of the ghosts. I know, isn't that crazy? So it happens in a lot of the old theaters. I played one, and I can't remember the name of it, that my dressing room, Sarah Bernhardt had been in that dressing room for a production. And you feel differently in some of these places. The history there alone. But a lot of the old theaters, I always had a feeling there was somebody watching or a presence there. And it wasn't necessarily creepy. It was just a presence.
Yeah.
In one theater, there was a little girl, I think, a little girl ghost that would sit in the balcony, and she would lock me out of my dressing room from time to time. But nobody was like, oh, be careful. She was sort of like a welcome spirit there. I love these stories.
Well, you never know, too, is that, for example, I was talking to Terry McGarty about when Jean Fitzgibbons, the Bean. Fitz. She was called Fitz and the Bean.
The
Bean. That was an old familial name. And so she was doing Fontaine that night. And you know how we'd always rehearse the lift and everything else before we'd rehearse the fight and the throwdown and all that stuff that we would actually rehearse before that.
For safety.
So, she says, okay, everything's okay. So we went out there, and so, and then as you come out as the factory foreman, you look over and there's supposed to be somebody standing there at the table, which is Fontaine, right? You're there at the table. And I come in and I go like, what's wrong with this picture? Why, there's no Fontaine. Meanwhile, Jean Fitzgibbons is screaming out the window of the dressing room on the first floor. She's right next door to Carmel.
Right. This was at the Imperial?
Yeah. And she's screaming, trying to get out of her dressing room. She couldn't get out of that door. Ladies and gentlemen, I gotta tell you, it was just like, she didn't have a word to say until she sits there and you sing, yes, it's true. What does she say when she comes out? She says, give me that letter, it's true, or something like that.
Give that letter to me, it is none of your business.
Right, yeah, okay, so we were out there and I'm going like, how the hell am I going to do this? See, and I'm sitting there going like, I don't know, can I just like do this and have my hands behind me doing something like that? To portray Fontaine? We didn't know what was going to happen. And all of a sudden, Jean flies out of the stage right, and she comes running across that stage. They'd finally gotten it open, and we don't know how or why it was stuck, but Terry says, that door was always a problem. It was problematic for anybody who was playing Fontaine, but that door stuck that night, and she couldn't get out. But she came out like a trooper, and she was like, ran down there. Now from the stress of, oh my God, I'm not going to make my entrance, to running down at full speed from upstairs to the stage, she made it, and she had to then sing I Dream, which is no slouch song, believe me. Now, what I'd like to discuss with Mary is maybe some of the funny things that might have happened on stage with us during the Les Miserables, the original Les Miserables that lasted from 87 to 97.
Nothing funny happened. What are you talking about?
Absolutely nothing.
Well, look, realistically, 8 shows a week is challenging. I would never advocate doing anything outside the realm of the story and the script and the score. However, there are times that very, very subtle things happen that only the cast is aware, the audience never is aware.
Yeah, no, and nor will they ever know. But that's one of the things that we like to talk about. I mean, how many times did we go backstage and we would see the Bean trying to hang herself? She played poor soul, and she was like, especially if we were there during a hostage crisis where we were doing Friday a show, 2 shows Saturday, 2 shows Sunday, because
so
we were making up for a Thanksgiving show, right?
That's when the show was
Yeah.
was 3.5 hours long.
Exactly.
Right.
And so we'd be up there and we'd see the Bean sitting there, and she'd borrow this length of rope, and she would stand on a chair and just try to throw this rope up over there and be so forlorn. She was in her own world. She would not ever recognize anybody, but people are on the floor laughing off stage.
And the matinee, I think it was a matinee when we came back for the top of the second act, and everybody was going, "What's that smell?
Yeah, what is that?
I smell pizza." And the guy in the front row, had this crazy Goomba had 2 girls,
2 Jersey babes with mole hair.
and they all had pizza slices. And they're eating the pizza slices while we're performing Les
Well,
Mis.
they'd gone out and they had created a big. This show was not for them. He was like, talking to his girlfriends, and he had his foot up on the orchestra railing. It was so inappropriate. But once we opened the second act, we came down. We saw those 3 seats empty, and we said, "Oh, thank God!" They finally got the idea that maybe this wasn't the show for them. So we're all over there in Eponine's Death. We're sitting there, and we could see the shadows against the exit signs of the heads bobbing up and down as they're. I said, "Oh no, oh no, no! It couldn't be." And sure enough, they'd come and they sat down with these oily brown paper bags, and they took the pizza out. They were eating this pizza, and it was hysterical. And of course, we have to keep it together.
The stuff that goes on in the audience.
They were
sometimes.
thrown out.
Yes.
Well, Mary, I can't tell you how grateful we are to have you here
Oh, Joel,
today
thank you.
on Luncheon with the Stars, and we are always going to be looking out for you and your successes as you continue to work both posts diligently. And we will be looking for your name on a rising star. So,
Oh, thank you, Joel. It's been a pleasure. So nice to see you again.
absolutely. We'll do it again.
I hope so.
Okay. And don't forget to please come and have dinner here at Bella Luna at 88th and Columbus Avenue. And we will see you later for another Luncheon with the Stars, secretstobroadway.com. Goodbye.
This portion of secretstobroadway.com was recorded at Bella Luna. Bella Luna, comfortable Italian dining on the Upper West Side, intimate dinner parties, custom receptions. A fixture on Columbus, Bella Luna is off the corner of West 88th at 584 Columbus Avenue, New York. Call 212-877-2267.